this is to help you with task 4 for each of the projects in Chapter 6. This is talking about the wrap selector. For both of the projects, either for the Pacific or for the yoga, both of them refer to the wrap indicator or the wrap container within the division tag. Before you can complete task 4, you must complete in task 2 this wrap ID selector in your CSS. Now both of these refer back to your hands-on practice, which is 6.4, and I'm going to go back and adjust that and show you how to include this in your CSS sheet, style sheet. Now when you work on point 6.4 hands-on practice on page 186 and 187, they want you to embed the styles into the HTML5 code for the index page, but I'm going to show you how to include it as part of your CSS style and then work with that in your HTML file. First thing we want to do is we're going to, and again I'm looking on page 186, we're going to open up the index file, the Trillium index file in Notepad. Now one of the easiest ways to do that, and I already have mine open here, is just to go to your Open button, File, and Open up the index.html page. If you're having problems getting to this point, you can use the one that's in the Student Data Files, 6.1 Student Data Files, and open that. Now on page 187, it says that we need, step number 1 is to edit the embedded CSS and remove the width and min width style declarations. So from your body tag, you have width and min width added. We're going to take those out from our embedded style here, so all you have to do is just delete those. Be careful not to delete the extra bracket. You must have that so that it will close the container for those style sheets. Now next we want to create a CSS style sheet because it's in the hands-on, it wanted us to add it right in within the information here, but we want to create a CSS style sheet and then we will link it. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to File and New, and then all we have to do is just type in the code for our CSS style sheet. Now step number 2, it says that we want to create an ID container. So anytime you use an ID selector, you have to start with an asterisk. I'm sorry, not an asterisk, but the hashtag or the number symbol. Let me see if I can zoom in on this just a little bit. Let's see if I can do this. It's easier when you have a mouse instead of just a touchpad. Okay, let me do it this way. I'll pull in my magnifier so then you can have a little bit of a closer look at what I'm typing in here. Okay, so we're going to create an ID selector. So an ID selector starts with the hashtag or the number symbol, and we're naming it container. Then we'll use our open brackets, and it says we're to add style declaration for the width, the min width, the margin left, and the margin right. And it should look as it shows on page 187, even though we're not embedding the style into the actual index code. From here we're going to start with our margin left, and we're going to set it at auto. Setting it at auto for the margin left and the margin right will tell the server that it wants it to automatically divide the space that's left over on the left side and the right side. And I just put margin left both times. Let me change that to margin right, so that it will divide whatever's left over from what we said is our max width of our page. Whatever's left over within the person's window that's looking, it'll even it out on both sides, therefore centering our web page in the middle. Then we're going to set a width of our web page to be at 80% of the window, and we're going to put the minimum width is going to be 750 pixels. And notice that after every one of those attributes, we put a semicolon, and we're finished with that. So now we'll put our closing bracket. Okay. Now note this is a new CSS sheet, so I'm going to name it File, or I'm going to go to File and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to, I'll save it right here in my 6.1 just so I'll have that. And I want to name it Trillium. And then I want to make it a CSS. So I can either type CSS or I can look for the Cascade Style sheet. And I'm going to save it right there. Now we have our style sheet saved, but we need to add this to our index. So go back to our index, and we've already removed the min width from this, but what we need to do is add our link to our style sheet. So now from here I'll put my link. Then we'll put the reference or the href so that we'll know where we're calling. We have to put our file name. So, and we put that in quotes. And then we have to give it the attribute relative of style sheet. Close quotes, close tag. Okay? So instead of embedding, which is what the step practice 6.4 does, we have created a style sheet which goes back to the directions for your case study, where you're adding all of these different things into your CSS style sheet. Okay, now going back into our index file, we still have to proceed along with step 3. Now we need to edit the HTML and configure a div element assigned to the ID container that wraps or contains the code within the body section. So what we'll do then is we will create a div tag that goes around our body. So coding an opening div tag on a new line after the opening body tag. So after this first body tag, and again, we'll have to find the tag, and it's down here because this up here is embedded style that's going to be applied to the body. But what we want to do in this case study is find the body tag. The tags are always the ones that have the less than and greater than sign around them. So after the opening body tag, we'll put a div for a division tag, and then we're going to set the div tag ID to container. Now when you're setting that to container, you start with ID, or whenever you're setting a ID selector, you set it to ID equal and then the name. And in this case it would be container. You do not have to put the hashtag when you're setting the ID it's equal to. The hashtag identifies the word container as an ID selector within your CSS style. So that is the only time that you would have to use the hashtag, which will be on the style sheet. On your HTML code, you just use the word in quotation marks. Now we have to close that. Now we need to find our closing tag. And we will put this closing div tag, because you want to, what you open last, you close first. So it will close the div tag before we close the body tag. Okay, any questions, you can let me know, but what we'll do now is we'll go look at this and see if this works correctly, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that it does. I'm going to zoom back out so that it's easier for me to get to the file. So I happen to have this file saved. Okay, I did not resave my code, that's why. I need to go back and save my code. And now if you will see that it is centered with the same amount of space left on the left side and the right side. And it called, if I access or open my source, down here at the bottom, you will see inside the source, there's my div tag that I had added, calling my container. And on down, it closes my div tag. I hope this helps you with that project. Just make sure that you completed all your CSS on task 2 for all of those before you end up working on trying to apply these to your HTML code. Please let me know if you have any other questions.